Okay, so a very important topic is chinuch. So first, before I get into what chinuch is, who does it apply to, what does it apply to, I first want to translate the word. Minimal translation. What does the word chinuch mean? The most common translation you'll hear for the word chinuch is education. That is not a good translation. You could be the most educated person in the world. You could be as smart as Shlomo HaMelech and have no chinuch whatsoever. Others translate the word chinuch to mean discipline. That's not either a good translation, because you could also have all the discipline in the world and not have proper chinuch. Translating the word chinuch into education or into discipline is the equivalent of translating to build something to mean hammer, nail, or piece of wood, or any material that you might need for building. Granted, you cannot build without tools and you cannot build without materials, but the word build doesn't mean hammer, nail, or material for building. It's a wrong translation. So to chinuch. You cannot give chinuch without education, nor can you give chinuch without discipline. It's literally impossible. But translating the word chinuch to education and discipline is a bad translation. I read in a book on chinuch that there really is no good translation for the word chinuch, which is why we probably have these poor translations out there that are commonly used. The rabbis prefer to use something than nothing. But the reality is that education is not the word for chinuch, nor is discipline. So I'm going to explain what chinuch actually is. But before that, there's a story of a philosopher, a great philosopher. He was caught eating like an animal. And when they asked him, how are you such a great philosopher? You always teach values and how people need to live life, and now you're caught eating like an animal. I don't know if he was caught. I don't think he was hiding it, but that's how he was eating. And they asked him, they called him out on that. How are you eating like that? And he said, when I eat, everybody's dead. He had no care in the world what people think about him. And I think the moral of the story is, he was really educated. And he was definitely disciplined. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to achieve being such a great philosopher. But like I said, education nor discipline is really the meanings of chinuch. He had zero chinuch with his education and with his discipline. So what does chinuch mean? So chinuch comes from the word Chanukah. We have Chanukat HaMizbeach, we have Chanukat HaBayit. One of the Mefarshim, one of the commentaries explain that chinuch is starting something new. That's one explanation. Second explanation is making something better, improving on something. So if you first build a house and you're starting to live in a new house, that's called Chanukat HaBayit, because you're starting to live in this new house. And if you want to make the house better, you want to maybe do something new in the house or break down the house and rebuild it into here or there, whatever it is, that's also called chinuch, to make it better, to improve on the house. So that's what chinuch is. Chinuch is us making ourselves better people, refining ourselves, focusing on our bad behavior traits, learning what is a bad behavior trait and what is a good behavior trait, learning how to uproot, how to get rid of those bad behavior traits, and finally how to replace those bad behavior traits with good behavior traits. That's what chinuch is about. So you need the education to learn how to do that, to learn what needs to be done and how to do it, and you need the discipline to actually follow through with taking the necessary steps and following through with them to actually become that better person, to really uproot that bad attribute and really replace it with a good attribute. It's a lot of work and requires a lot of discipline. So chinuch is education on good behavior traits and how to replace them with and how to put them in place with and how to get rid of the bad behavior traits. And discipline being disciplined to be able to actually follow through with that. But the education and the discipline need to be applied to your behavior. So if you're just being disciplined and listening to your mom and dad, and that's not really helping you improve yourself, so you're disciplined, but you're not focusing the discipline on becoming a better person. So therefore you can't consider that to be chinuch. That would not be called chinuch. There's a story, it's a mashal, it's not a real story, it's a parable of a man who got a job at a restaurant. He goes to the restaurant and the boss gives him a list of things to do. He tells him, I'll be back in a few hours. The boss leaves and he comes back a few hours later. The list that he gave him was loaded with things to do. The place was a wreck. Dishes needed to be done. Things needed to be put away. Potatoes needed to be peeled. Things needed to get cooked. It was an endless list. I wouldn't say an endless list, but it was a nice long list. He had a lot of things that he needed to get done before the boss comes back. The boss comes back, and not only did nothing happen to the restaurant, it remained the same what it was before he left. But now there's even more of a mess because people came and he gave them food, I guess, and they left an even bigger mess on the table. And he didn't clean up after them. The boss asked him, what's going on over here? First day on the job, this is the way you behave. He tells the boss, you wouldn't believe that I know your list inside out. You can test me. Here's the list. Test me. I'll tell you from the middle to the top, from the top to the bottom, from the bottom to the middle. Any order you want, I'll tell you the list. You told me to study the list. I studied it, and I know it better than anything else I know in the world. And the boss right away fired him. And the moral of this story, why it's taught, I heard it in yeshiva, teaching it to yeshiva boys who they sit and learn Torah all day, teaching them sitting and learning is not enough. What's more important is to actually do what needs to get done. So from this story we learn that yes, we need education, yes, we need discipline, and we need to do what needs to get done. But the doing is even more important than the learning. So if we're going to learn chinuch, if we're going to put our efforts into chinuch and really want to work on ourselves and on our children, the action is what comes first. You need to do what needs to get done to become a better person. That's more important than learning what needs to get done. So I hope we all are ready to get to action, get to work, and do what needs to get done. Also to learn, but together with the learning, we'll also do a lot of work. And B'ezras Hashem, I want to give over teachings of the previous Rebbe, the Frierdiker Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, on how to do chinuch on yourself and on your children. And with that we'll become better people, our children become better people. And I wish everyone all the best.